I'm Jamie. I got a couple of books for you today. I'm going to start with one by Chris Van Dusen. It's called If I Built a Car. Jack, from the back seat, said to his dad, "This car's okay. This car's not bad, but it's just a car. Nothing great, nothing grand. It's nothing at all like the car I have planned. I'll work through the night to create a design, constantly analyze, tweak and refine. I'll study jet rockets and look at old planes. I'll contemplate buses and zeppelins and trains. To make it as smooth and as sleek as an eel, I'll borrow ideas from the Wienermobile. So sit back, relax, stay right where you are. It's time to reveal my spectacular car." You'll see that I've added a lot of neat things. Flush fender skirts and retractable wings, 3 headlights up front, 4 taillights in back, plus 2 giant fins like our old Cadillac. My brand new design will be curvy and round, with special jet engines that don't make a sound. I'll paint it bright colors with accents of chrome and top it all off with a plexiglass dome. I'll build a safe car, just as safe as I can, 'cause safety is job number 1 in my plan. It may look like steel from afar, you can't tell, but it's actually made of a polymer gel, a space-age concoction that I just invented. So in a collision, my car won't get dented. It simply absorbs what we happen to hit, and folks would be fine in the seats where they sit. Come with me now and I'll show you inside. I've put in a couch. It's comfy and wide. Plus a fireplace, fish tank, and here's something cool. The floor can slide open, and look, there's a pool. Now step right this way to the back of the car and note the red button marked Instant Snack Bar. Say you were hungry and wanted a treat. Just press it, and instantly good things to eat appear in a flash, anything that you please, from hazelnut pudding to aerosol cheese. After you've eaten, you might like a nap, and Robert and Robart make a napping a snap. I've built him right into the back of the chair. He's out of the way. You won't know that he's there. But when you get sleepy and rise from your seat, the chair spins around without missing a beat. Robert the robot will take the controls, and he's guaranteed not to hit telephone poles. I see you're impressed with all that's inside, so start up the motor. Let's go for a ride. A car that smells good? Now that's something new. But if I built a car, that's just what I'd do. Inside the engine, I'll add a machine to capture the odor of burnt gasoline and change it to something more pleasing to noses, like blueberry muffins or freshly picked roses. Now that we're cruising, let's head to the lake. There's no need to panic or slam on the brake. My car can do something that very few can. The fenders will float like a catamaran. We're skimming the waves and we're having a ball, but wait, hold your horses, 'cause that isn't all. Boating is fine till we get the urge to dive underwater. Then just hit submerge. Robert will drive as we burble about. We can see catfish and we can see trout. We might even spy the shy stickleback gar from inside our fabulous waterproof car. Last but not least, the best feature of all comes down to a button that's shiny and small. Push it and then, in the wink of an eye, the car will take off. We'll be up in the sky. We'll fly over land, we'll fly over seas, to Alaska, Nebraska, Bermuda, Belize. Or take a vacation when things start to freeze and fly us all down to the Florida Keys. My car will be cool, My car will be keen. My car will be one big fantastic machine. The toast of the town, the cream of the crop, the belle of the ball and the tip of the top. My car will be famous from here to Peru. If I built a car, that's just what I'd do. Wow, pretty fancy car. Hope you like that one. Let's see what I got now. Oh, we're going from cars to trucks. This one is called Big Truck, Little Island, and it's also by Chris Van Dusen. Out on the ocean, one bright summer day, bound for an island still 5 miles away, a tugboat was towing a truck on a barge, a truck that was hauling a load extra large. The cargo it carried was all under wraps, tied to the trailer with buckles and straps, facing a twisty and treacherous ride to get to the field on the far eastern side. The barge reached the ramp, the truck trundled off. It bucked up the bridge with a wheeze and a cough. Then slowly but surely it chugged up the road, lugging its 20-ton oversized load. One narrow roadway transected the aisle, and the driver had driven it less than a mile when he came to a switchback terribly tight, then felt the whole payload shift to his right. The trailer was tipping, everything slipping. The wheels in the way back were no longer gripping. They skidded and slid off the road, and then, thud! They landed and lodged in the soft, sticky mud. 2 cars in a hurry arrived from the north. Then from the south came a third and a fourth. They waited and wished that the traffic was flowing. They had things to do and had to get going. Meg had a swim meet at 3 at the pool. She swam the fly for her team at the school. And Barry was already late for ballet. He needed to practice his Bateman frappe. Pete had a project to finish with Paul, a working volcano with lava and all. And Sue had to be at the dog wash with Bunk, her sheepdog, who tried to make friends with a skunk. Oh boy, that's why he had to take a bath. Parental frustrations soon started to show. How could they get where they needed to go? They stewed and they steamed and their faces grew red. Then all of their children convened up ahead. Since Meg lived by Barry and Barry knew Pete, and Pete was Sue's neighbor on Sycamore Street, and Meg was in art club with Barry and Sue, they quickly decided, as friends, what to do. Barry said, "Listen, let's all exchange cars. We'll borrow yours and then you borrow ours. I'll switch Pete and Meg swaps with Sue, and later we'll trade our cars back when we're through." The parents agreed the solution was great. By borrowing cars, they no longer would be late. And so they departed and went on their way to the pool or the dog wash, or to Paul's or ballet. As for the big rig, that too was okay. A wrecker was summoned and towed it away to the far eastern field where later that night all was revealed to the people's delight. Oh my goodness. It was a town fair. The truck was hauling all the rides and booths for the town fair. I wonder if they all came back from their appointments to go to the town fair. I have one more. Makes 3. And this one's called Let Me Fix You a Plate. It's a tale of 2 kitchens by Elizabeth Lilly. I like kitchens. Like to cook. Once a year, on a Friday night, my family leaves the city and drives for hours and hours to a mountain in West Virginia. My mama opens the door into the cool, dark night. "Let me fix you a plate," she says. Mama's midnight kitchen is warm and light, with blue tiles on the floor and cat plates on the wall. Mama's morning kitchen is clean and bright, with sausage sizzling in the skillet, blackberry jam on toast, and tractors on cups. My papa drinks his coffee with cream but no sugar, and Daddy does too. My dad and his dad, Daddy and Papa, with the same coffee cups. Outside, the stray cat who lives in the old trailer meows, and morning mountain fog wrinkles and rolls. Later, my sisters stack vanilla wafer cookies. Mama pours the pudding, and I cover the top with slices of banana, and then we eat it all. 3 days later, we leave Mama's house so early it is still night, and drive south and south to a little orange house on a patch of scratchy grass in Florida. We get out of the car, and the hot, sticky air hugs us close. Then a Beulah runs out and hugs us even closer. "Hey, camadita adentro. Commence. There's food inside. Come and eat," she says. In a Beulah's midnight kitchen, white tiles feel cool under my feet. Aunts and cousins and uncles and neighbors talk over each other above my head. I crunch tostones and scoop arroz and slurp flan and fall asleep at the table. My mom's still laughing, saying loud Spanish words that I don't understand. Outside of Beulah's morning kitchen, red ants climb over scratchy grass and bite my feet while I pick naranjas with a Beulah in the yard. We drink them as juice and eat arepas with queso blanco. My mom helps her mom to fry the corn flour cakes. My mom and her mom cooking and chatting together. A Beulah teaches me Spanish words while I look around. Boca means mouth. There are little wooden houses. From Puerto Rico, keys hanging below. Nariz means nose, a shelf of nothing but frog figurines, glass and stone and wood. Oreja means ear, and a sliding glass door between air-conditioned room and the sticky outdoor summer heat. In the evening, Tio Elmo makes coquito, and the grown-ups drink the coconut rum punch that looks but doesn't taste like eggnog. I hide behind the couch with my books while my cousins and aunts and uncles dance salsa and merengue. A Beulah finds me and gives me tostones. 3 days later, we leave the little orange house and drive back towards our house in the city. We stare at the changing scenery, tummies full, hearts fuller, already missing the salsa, sausage, toast, tostones, aunts, arepas, a Beulah, naranjas, bananas, mountains, mama, cats, and fog and scratchy grass. We reach our house tired and hungry. I look at Mommy. She is tan and brown, bags under her tired eyes, missing Spanish words, and oranges on trees. I look at Daddy, pink from sunburn, messy hair and stubbled chin, missing Mama's meals and quiet mountaintops. I'm hungry, I say. So Mommy mixes flour and Daddy beats eggs. I set syrup on the table. Mommy's midnight kitchen has bright lights and a warm wood floor. Plantain pressers next to potato mashers. Outside, our windows glow like gems seen by sleepy passing cars. Inside, there's warm, soft talk and air that smells like waffles. Daddy works the iron, Mommy forks waffles onto plates, and their 3 little politos, hungry little chicks, gobble them up and then drift off to sleep in their soft feather nests. So that was the story of the different kitchens at the different grandparents' house. And then when they went home, they had a meal in their own house. Hope you enjoyed our books this time. I'll see you again next time. Thanks.
Hi, boys and girls. I'm Jo, and I'm here today to read you some stories. The first story I'm going to read is called Two Bad Ants by the author Chris Van Allsburg. So let's get started. I wonder how bad these ants are. The news traveled swiftly through the tunnels of the ant world. A scout had returned with a remarkable discovery, a beautiful, sparkling crystal. When the scout presented the crystal to the ant queen, she took a small bite, then quickly ate the entire thing. She deemed it the most delicious food she had ever had tasted. Nothing could make her happier than to have more, much more. The ants understood. They were eager to gather more crystals because the queen was the mother of them all. Her happiness made the whole ant nest a happy place. It was late in the day when they departed. Long shadows stretched over the entrance to the ant kingdom. One by one, the insects climbed out, following the scout, who had made it clear there were many crystals where the first one had been found. But the journey was long and dangerous. They marched into the woods that surrounded their underground home. Dusk turned to twilight, twilight to night. The path they followed twisted and turned, every bend leading them deeper into the deep, dark forest. More than once, the line of ants stopped and anxiously listened for the sounds of hungry spiders. But all they heard was the call of crickets echoing through the woods like distant thunder. Dew formed on the leaves above without warning. Huge cold drops fell on the marching ants. A firefly passed overhead that for an instant lit up the woods with a blinding flash of blue-green light. At the edge of the forest stood a mountain. The ants looked up and could not see its peak. It seemed to reach to the heavens. But they did not stop. Up the side they climbed, higher and higher. The wind whistled through the cracks of the mountain face. The ants could feel its force bending their delicate antennae. Their legs grew weak as they struggled upward. At last they reached the ledge and crawled through a narrow tunnel. When the ants came out of the tunnel, they found themselves in a strange world. The smells they had known all their lives, smells of dirt and grass and rotting plants, had vanished. There were no more wind, and most puzzling of all, it seemed that the sky was gone. They crossed smooth, shiny surfaces, then followed the scout up a glassy curved wall. They had reached their goal. From the top of the wall, they looked below to a sea of crystals. One by one, the ants climbed down into the sparkling treasure. Quickly, they each chose a crystal, then turned to start their journey home. There was something about this unnatural place that made the ants nervous. In fact, they left in such a hurry that none of them noticed the 2 small ants who stayed behind. "Why go back?" one asked the other. "This place may not feel like home, but look at all these crystals." "You're right," said the other. "We can stay here and eat this tasty treasure every day forever." So the 2 ants ate crystal after crystal until they were too full to move, and they fell asleep. Daylight came. The sleeping ants were unaware of changes taking place in their newfound home. A giant silver scoop hovered above them, then plunged into the crystals. It shoveled up both ants and crystals and carried them high into the air. The ants were wide awake when the scoop turned, dropping them from a frightening height. They tumbled through space in a shower of crystals and fell into a boiling brown lake. Then the giant scoop stirred violently back and forth. Crushing waves fell over the ants. They paddled hard to keep their tiny heads above water, but the scoop kept spinning that hot brown liquid. Around and around it went, creating a whirlpool that sucked the ants deeper and deeper. They both held their breaths and finally bobbed to the surface, gasping for air and spitting mouths full of the terrible, bitter water. Then the lake tilted and began to empty into a cave. The ants could hear the rushing water and felt themselves pulled toward the pitch-black hole. Suddenly the cave disappeared and the lake became calm. The ants swarmed to the shore and found that the lake had steep sides. They hurried down the walls that held back the lake. The frightened insects looked for a place to hide, worried that the giant scoop might shovel them back up again. Close by, they found a huge round disc with holes that they could neatly hide them. But as soon as they climbed inside, their hiding place was lifted, tilted, and lowered into a dark space. When the ants climbed out of the holes, they were surrounded by a strange red glow. It seemed to them that every second the temperature was rising. It soon became so unbearably hot that they thought they would soon be cooked. But suddenly the disc they were standing on rocketed upward, and the two hot ants were flying through the air. They landed near what seemed to be a fountain, a waterfall pouring from a silver tube. Both ants had a powerful thirst and longed to dip their feverish heads into the refreshing water. They quickly climbed along the tube. As they got closer to the rushing water, the ants felt a cool spray. They tightly gripped the shiny surface of the fountain and slowly leaned their heads into the falling stream, but the force of the water was too strong. The tiny insects were pulled off the fountain and plunged down into a wet, dark chamber. They landed on half-eaten fruit and other soggy things. Suddenly the air was filled with loud, frightening sounds. The chamber began to spin. The ants were caught in a whirling storm of shredded food and stinking rain. Then, just as quick as it had started, the noise and spinning stopped. Bruised and dizzy, the ants climbed out of the chamber. In daylight, once again, they raced through puddles and up a smooth metal wall. In the distance, they saw something comforting. Two long, narrow holes that reminded them of the warmth and safety of their old underground home. They climbed up into the dark openings. But there was no safety inside these holes. A strange force passed through the wet ants. They were stunned senseless and blown out of the holes like bullets from a gun. When they landed, the tiny insects were too exhausted to go on. They crawled into a dark corner and fell asleep. Night had returned when the battered ants awoke to a familiar sound, the footsteps of their fellow insects returning for more crystals. The two ants slipped quietly to the end of the line. They climbed the glassy wall and once again stood amid the treasure, but this time they each chose a single crystal and followed their friends home. Standing at the edge of the ant hole, the two ants listened to the joyful sounds that came from below. They knew how grateful their mother queen would be when they gave her their crystals. At that moment, the two ants felt happier than they'd ever felt before. This was their home. This was their family. This was where they were meant to be. And that is the end. And you'll see from the pictures that were shown, the two ants found crystals. But what do you think the crystals were? You'll have to look at the pictures and figure it out. The next book we have is called Mindful Mr. Sloth by Katie Hudson. And let's see what this book is about. Takes me a minute to open it up. Sasha Patience Pruitt was far from patient. She loved to do lots of things all at once. She had one speed, fast. Early one morning, Sasha raced up to her treehouse, trampling some flowers along the way. She frantically waved her butterfly net around for 2 seconds and moved on. She had just whipped out her guitar to serenade the birds when she was interrupted by an almighty crash above her head. Sasha scrambled up to the roof to find what's on the roof there? A sloth. "Hello," he said. "My name is Mr. Sloth." Mr. Sloth was going to explain how he had fallen from a branch above during his morning nap, but Sasha was too impatient to wait for his story. "Come along, Mr. Sloth," she said. "We are going to be best friends. I have so much for us to do together." They tried playing doctor, but Mr. Sloth took far too long to find a heartbeat. Sasha decided that Mr. Sloth should be the patient. That worked better. They tried building a rocket, but Mr. Sloth was much too slow with the sticky tape. Sasha thought it best that he do a different job. Painting took even longer. Sasha had painted 4 pictures in the time it took Mr. Sloth to tie his apron. Boy, he is slow. "Come along now," Sasha said, picking up a paintbrush and taking over. "They're all done. Grab a helmet, Mr. Sloth. It's time for the neighborhood race." I wonder what that is. Off Sasha and Mr. Sloth sped, faster than anyone else in the race. Faster and faster they went until... "Stop!" howled Mr. Sloth. "What is it?" Sasha asked impatiently. "Can you hear that bird singing?" he asked. "Beautiful." Sasha paused. The chirping was nice enough, but she had a race to win. She plopped Mr. Sloth back in her bike basket. Off they sped again, Sasha pedaling fast to catch up. Until... "Stop!" moaned Mr. Sloth. With a quick huff, Sasha stopped. "What is it now, Mr. Sloth?" "Can you smell the flowers?" he asked. Sasha sniffed around, pausing a little longer this time. The flowers did smell nice. How had she never noticed that before? But she didn't have time for this. The race was still underway. "Helmet back on, Mr. Sloth," she said. "Let's go." Off they raced once more, Sasha pedaling as fast as she could. "Stop!" wheezed Mr. Sloth. Once again, Sasha slammed on the brakes. But before she could ask, Mr. Sloth took off his helmet and whispered, "Shh." Sasha waited. She took a breath. She felt a tiny breeze. She looked. She listened. All was still. And you can see Sasha and the sloth sloth is holding a butterfly. So he likes to stop and notice beautiful things. That day, Sasha saw that fun had 2 speeds, fast and slow. She still liked to go fast as she could at times. But other times, going slow worked out much better. And just like Sasha had predicted, she and Mr. Sloth became the very best of friends. At the end of every day, they would snuggle together for story time. Mr. Sloth took so long to read the words that Sasha got to enjoy every part of the story more than she ever had before. She even had time to look at the pictures. Of course, they didn't always make it to the end. And you can see they're so tired, they fell asleep. And the very last thing in this book is a little bit of advice. Mindfulness is being present in the moment. Focus on where you are and what you are doing. Stop, relax, think about your breathing, use your senses to notice the world around you. Wow, Sasha learned a great lesson from Mr. Sloth. The next book I have is also by Katie Hudson. It's called Too Many Carrots. And it's about a rabbit who loves carrots. Rabbit loved carrots. He collected them wherever he went. And I think I missed a page here. Rabbit was proud of his collection and burrowed it away in his cozy hole. But Rabbit had a problem, a big problem. And you can see him putting all those carrots into his hole. He could not sleep. His cozy hole was too crowded to live in. Look at all those carrots. I don't think he can eat them all. I need a place to sleep, Rabbit told Tortoise. You can share my house, Tortoise offered. It looks cozy and snug, Rabbit said. Maybe it's a little too snug for two, suggested Tortoise. Not at all, said Rabbit. Uh-oh, oh dear, ouch, oh, crash. They were stuffed into that tortoise shell together. Oh dear, well perhaps we can stay in Bird's nest, said Rabbit. My nest is quite small, Rabbit, said Bird. I'm sure we will all fit, replied Rabbit. Rabbit hauled all his carrots up the tree. Whoa, groaned Tortoise and Bird as the branch wobbled and swayed. And snapped. Crash! I'm so sorry, Bird. Now 3 of us don't have a place to sleep, said Rabbit. You can sleep in my house, offered Squirrel. Oh, thank you, Squirrel. How kind of you, said Rabbit. I don't think any more carrots will fit, Rabbit, said Squirrel. Just a few more, Rabbit replied. Uh-oh, whimpered Tortoise, Bird, and Squirrel. Creak, crack, crash! Oh, all the carrots came flooding out of Squirrel's home. Now 4 of us don't have anywhere to sleep, grumbled Squirrel. You can sleep at my house, called Beaver. It has plenty of space. Great, I can bring even more carrots, Rabbit said with a smile. But with all your carrots, we can't fit inside, said Beaver, a bit bewildered. Just then the rain started. Tortoise shivered. Bird whimpered. Squirrel squeaked. And Beaver heard a terrible rumble as his house collapsed. Oh no, my house, yelled Beaver. Oh no, my carrots, cried Rabbit. Oh my gosh, look at that beaver house full of carrots. I think Rabbit has a carrot problem. Everything just broke apart. Crash! The friends groaned as they swept up onto the riverbank. Rabbit felt terrible. His friends were cold, tired, and homeless, and it was all his fault. Even worse, Rabbit still had all of his carrots and his house. And that's when he realized there was only one thing to do. Share everything with his friends. After all, carrots weren't for collecting. They were for sharing. And sharing made everything better. The end. So he shared his carrots with his friends, and everyone was happy. Thanks for listening to